Hi everyone. I'm here today to talk about the two different models that most people use for their photography business. More of a digital, online process, and the other is in-person sales. So I'm going to do a video on each one and the benefits and sort of the pros and cons. So I personally do in-person sales, but that doesn't mean I don't sell digitals, but I do everything in person. And I'll get to that in the other video of my reasons why and the pros and cons to that. But right now I'm going to talk about digitals. So one misconception I want to clear up first is that in-person sales takes up more of your time than digital sales. And that's not necessarily true, because if you're priced correctly, and depending on your pricing, you will actually take more clients in a digital format than you will in an in-person sales format. So your amount that you need per client is different, and your time spent with them is different. However, if you're taking more clients to make up for the amount of money that they may have spent with in-person sales, then you actually end up spending the same amount of time working. So that's just a misconception I want to clear up, because I see that a lot where people say, oh, I can't do in-person sales because I just don't have the time for that. Well, you're either spending, whatever it is, 6 hours per week in person with a client, or not quite 6 hours, but a certain amount of hours per week with one client, or you're spending that with 3 clients. So it really depends on your pricing, and that's unless your digitals are priced really high, which is totally great too, because you only want a very limited number of clients, and so you can do that as well. And in that case, that could take up less time than in-person sales. So I just wanted to clear that up before we get started. So digital, there's nothing wrong with this. I see people all the time bashing the other model, and all these IPS groups. It's people saying that, you have to do IPS or you can't make any money. And then I see the digital world saying, oh, people in IPS are so pushy and so awful, and they just want to make more money, and they don't care about, the clients. And both of those are not true. So I do IPS, and it's because I want to make a real connection with my clients. It's because I want to give more to every client. So again, I'll talk about that after, but as far as digitals, there's nothing wrong with choosing a digital format. And so let's go over the pros and cons to that. I have a little PowerPoint that I'm going to show you, and then we're going to come back and I'm just going to finalize my thoughts on it. Hold on one sec. Okay, so let's talk about this digital model. What does it mean? It means you want to sell just digitals and you don't want to order products and sell products. Totally fine. You do a session and then either send a USB or a link for clients to download their files, or you want to sell digitals as part of your session fee, but then offer more digitals and or products afterwards to upsell. So you can do any of these things. The pros to doing a digital model is less time in person with each client. So this does not mean you're working less with clients. This is a very big misconception. Remember that. It just means less in-person time per client, but not less in-person client time. No need to order products, so you don't have to have samples. You don't have to worry about ordering stuff after the fact, unless you offer products and you don't automatically have the labs do it. Clients have full use and can print as they wish, and you don't have to fulfill print orders. So if you prefer that, then that's great. The cons. So one is that you lose control over quality and use. This was a big issue for me and why I changed over to products as being my main
offering. And it's because I would walk into clients' houses and see pictures that I had taken that were some of my favorite pictures, and they were printed so horribly. They were too bright, too dark, had a tint on them of some color. The contrast was off. They just looked awful. And it hurt my heart to see my images that I worked so hard on and loved printed badly. So that's one thing you do lose control over, and they can use them as much as they want and share them with as many people as they want. So that's one thing that you do lose with this model. If you include only a few, but put a whole gallery online, they may take them all. So I stopped online galleries because people were screenshotting and using photos. And if you think that people aren't going to go and print a photo that's a screenshot or has a watermark across the front, then you're very wrong, because people do this all the time. So if you decide to do a model where you include a few digitals in your session fee, but want to upsell, just be prepared that once they go into their online gallery, they may not buy anything more, and they may just screenshot and take the photos anyway. So that gets a little tricky. There are ways to do this. You can do like a very limited time that they have the online gallery and hope that they don't screenshot it. You can do this process through like a Skype situation where they choose their images, something like that. So there are some things you can try to do to deter that. You can also really get to know your clients. I trust my clients. So when I do end up very occasionally providing an online gallery for certain reasons, I fully trust that those clients aren't going to be taking photos they didn't pay for. So it's really up to you. It's a judgment call. And last, there's a con to the client, which is that we have an overabundance of digital images. I've had clients tell me that they're completely overwhelmed by the amount of pictures they have in their computers and clouds and phones. And my thought started to be, okay, well, if you're taking this many photos of your children, what are you doing later on when you want to hand them down? Are you handing them your iCloud password and saying there's, 100,000 photos in there? Have fun. Even if they're organized, that just sounds extremely overwhelming to me. So for me, I'd rather somebody hand me a stack of albums or prints, or a box of prints that I can just look at, rather than just be given that many digitals. So, but again, everybody's different. So this is, and that's more of a con to your client. So then they might not see it that way. So they might be totally happy with having digitals, but it's just something for you to think about. Once I explain that to my clients, they actually see the point of not having digitals as the main product, but they do get digitals anyway, because I do agree that they are an important thing to have. I love to share pictures online and be able to look at them on my computer or do certain things with them. So I totally understand people wanting digitals, and I'm never going to be that person that only offers products and will not give anybody digitals. So how to make the most of your digitals. So if you are only doing digitals, you still want to make sure that you're priced right. So the main thing you really need to do is know your cost of doing business, and make sure you also figure out your digital price. So your cost of doing business is just like basically your minimums that you have to make the living wage you need to support your life, to support your business. But then you also need to figure out that your digitals are worth something. They are your art. They're your piece of art. When somebody sells a painting, the materials might not cost very much. The time they spent could be a long time, but might not be that much. My boyfriend is a painter. He doesn't sell his photos. He does it for himself, but he paints beautiful pictures and could spend 5 hours on a gorgeous canvas. But that 5 hours, plus the fact that he is that talented and creative and was able to create that picture of a beautiful waterfall, is worth a lot. So that's why you see artists put their paintings up for 1,000 or thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, because it's not just about the amount of time you spend in the materials. It's what you value your art at. And you need to kind of think about it that way. Like, this is your original artwork and you're giving it to somebody. They can use it as much as they want. They can print it on as many different mediums as they want. Again, you lose that control. So you want to make sure you figure that in. You're releasing those images for them to do what they want. And I'll tell you, it really doesn't matter what your stipulations are. If you have a print release that says they can't do certain things, they can do it anyway. There's no way you're going to know. So the other option, I mean, not the other option, but the other thing you want to think about is offer only a limited number of digitals included in, if you want to keep the initial session price lower, and then sell additional images or products in online galleries. Can make this tough just because of what I said before. People can go in and just screenshot them and take them anyway, but you know, this is a judgment call, and you can put extra watermarks on them and hope that they don't do it. And again, if you have good relationships with your clients, then, you know, most of them aren't going to do that. So, so you could sell additional images to them afterwards. And I'm going to give you some examples next. Or set up product ordering, and those can be either fulfilled through you, or if your gallery site does automatic ordering through certain professional labs, then you know, the work's already being done for you, which can be useful. So here's an example. You run your numbers, and the minimum you need per client is $300 because you spend 5 hours total per client communicating, shooting, editing, uploading, etc. And our higher volume serving maybe 6 clients per week. So now remember, that's your minimum. That's like base what you need to make once you've run all of your numbers and figured out all your costs and your income that you want, your minimum. This would be a very minimum income. So say 100 of that goes towards your cost of doing business and your business itself. So you have figured out your yearly and monthly cost of doing business and everything that goes into that. That's website, insurance, being registered as a legal business, any subscriptions or memberships you have, your equipment, your computer, and how much, when you break that down, how much that is. And then you figure out, okay, well, after you figure that out, there's a way to figure out how much per client that would be. And that's something I walk people through in my program, and I walk you through in the forms that I have a bundle of business forms that you would get with a full business plan that has a cost of doing business worksheet and how to figure that out, and then how to figure out per client what the cost of doing business is, so you can really know your numbers well. You really need to know your numbers well. So say 100 of that goes toward your cost of doing business and your business itself. You always want to also allot some that just goes into your business account, so that you always have a good chunk of money in there to support anything you need. So then after the cost of doing business, your hourly wage is $40 before taxes. So then it comes down to what, about $26 an hour. And that sounds great, but then you need to figure out that you are paying for other things. You know, if we run our own business, we don't get insurance included, and we don't get retirement included in that and automatically taken out for us. So, so those are things you need to consider as well when you're figuring out your numbers. But say you figured all that out and this is really all you need. You figure out that your digitals are worth $40. And this is actually a lower number, but better than most are charging. Please do not charge $10 or $20 for your digitals. As I said, this is your original artwork. This is all of your education, all of your practice over the years, all of your hard work and creativity and the passion that comes out of you when you create images is worth something, and it's not worth $10 or $20. So, so please, please, please consider that when you're considering your price. So say you make your session $5.95 and include 10 digitals, and then you offer additional digitals for $40 each, or on a sliding scale. So for example, if they do a package of 10, they get them for $350 instead of $400. So again, think about what your digitals are really worth to you. So same scenario-ish. You run your numbers, minimum you need per client is 300. But you don't want to stay at that minimum, because you actually figure out, okay, well, I'm not always going to have 6 clients per week. And I am, there could be slow times, or I could get sick and have to take some time off, or any scenario. So you want to actually figure out that you need 600 per client at 6 clients per week, so that you know that if you have less, you have some slow months, you have time that you need to take off because you're not feeling well, things like that, you have that sort of set in there. So you figure out that your digitals are worth 50. And just for comparison, mine are actually 125 each if they bought them. I don't actually sell them individually, but that's what they would be if they added just an individual digital onto their order. And then I have packages. So it's a big sliding scale. So they do, they're not 125 each for, 40, and they pay 125 for each of those 40. They get them for 3,000, which I know sounds like a scary number, but it's really not when I really sat down and figured out my numbers and my value. So, so these are some scenarios you can do with that, with these numbers. You set your session fee at $150, and then you sell packages of digitals. You sell packages of, say, 10 digitals, 20 digitals, and then all of them, or however you want to do it. But you figure that in. You can do it on a sliding scale. Your first package would be at the full price. So if you were doing 10 of them and your digitals are worth 50 each, then it would be $500 to get 10 digitals. And then you could go a little bit lower for the next one, and then you could go lower for the next one. So you'll figure that out with your own numbers. You set your session that includes 10 digitals at $650. So that is your session fee and your time plus 10 digitals. And then they can order additionals at $50 each, or you can do packages and sliding scale the same way. Last, you have a session plus all the digitals for one set price. So $1,000 still seems kind of cheap depending on how many photos you take. If you're giving them, 30, 40, 50 digitals for $1,000, then you're losing some value there. But again, this is your numbers and your choice. As long as you are making what you need to make plus a good cushion there, that's what's really important. So,
Okay, so that was my overview on digitals and the pros and cons to doing that type of format where you are only selling digitals and you're not selling any products. Or you're trying to sell some products in an online gallery. So, whichever option you choose, I ask you to really look at both of them. So watch my other video on in-person sales just to see what the pros and cons to that is, and then write everything down, sit with it, think about what works best for you. Of course, you have to run your cost of doing business, and you have to have a business plan before you can even think about what model to use. You need to have that in place so you can run the numbers and say, okay, well, I need this many people doing digital sales for the price I feel comfortable charging, or I need to charge, or price per image I want to charge. And this is how many clients and how much I'll make if I do in-person sales, and figure that out. Look at them side by side, and then make an informed decision. Don't make a decision just because you assume that you're going to spend less time if you do it digitally and it's just quicker and easier. That's what I thought for years, and now I wouldn't go back. I do have some digital options, so I sort of do both now. I have just a petite session that I offered, very limited, and digitals come with those, but I still do my in-person sales to sell them. So, you know, usually people buy more than that. So, watch my IPS video as well. Watch some of the other videos. If you want more information and you want to work with me, then click on the link below. I offer a lot of one-on-one coaching, and a group workshop will be in June online, so that's at your convenience, which is great. I also am launching a bundle of business forms that includes a really thorough business plan template and guide to walk you through it, specific to photography. And it also has a cost of doing business worksheet and guide and all the other accompanying worksheets that go along with it. So that's something that I haven't seen anywhere else. I haven't seen anybody come up with a really comprehensive bundle of business forms that includes all of that together. You can get, you know, a free business form somewhere that's not really, it's just more of a general business form, business plan form. You can get a cost of business doing worksheet in certain places, and you just kind of have to figure it out. But hopefully this will be helpful for people, because I wanted to just take everything and put it in one place so you don't have to go searching for it, and also make it specific to photography, so that you can, you know, work through it easily and not be trying to figure out how to translate what it's telling you into the photography realm. So take a look below and see what you think, and give me an email.